Have you ever stopped to take a look around you and wondered what is going on behind closed doors? Whether that's the stresses of working environments, relationships with family and partners, or financial woes, everyone has something that they are struggling with. But what if you didn't just have yourself to think about and there was another person in the picture?
You worry constantly, you suppress it, how you feel, you worry about whether my son's had a good day at work, he works part-time, but or whether, is he going to move out of his room that day,
Unpaid carers are the people who care for a friend, relative, or perhaps a neighbour, but do they ever get recognised for this role? Many remain hidden among society, with some never seeing themselves as a carer.
Identifying these people is really, really hard, and then when you do identify them, they don't want you to help them because they're like, no, we have to do this.
Carers UK estimates that there are approximately 10.6 million unpaid carers in the UK, with around 22,500 in Medway alone. During the pandemic, unpaid carers saved the UK economy a staggering £193 billion per year.
We need to notice that under equality legislation at the moment, carers aren't a category of protected characteristic. And I think that there have been voices arguing that caring should be considered.
Are unpaid carers the hidden heroes of our society? And if so, what more can we do to support them? This is Erin Bailey, who has been my best friend since we were 4 years old. We met at primary school and instantly became close. We grew up together and have remained friends ever since. Around 3 years ago, Erin's life changed completely. Her mum, Claire, had been diagnosed with cancer and after treatment was given the all clear. However, unfortunately, around a year later, Claire was told her cancer had returned and it was now terminal. She was given up to a year to live. As a result of Claire's treatment, she also had to have a blood clot removed from her leg. Erin and her family decided to take a trip to Iceland and they had lots of fun. But when they returned, Claire faced further complications with her leg.
I had extreme pain in my leg, and I've taken so many drugs that the pain should have gone, but it hadn't. So I knew I was saying to them, just take the leg off. Just take the leg off. But then when it comes to the fact that that's the only thing they can now do, it's like, it's either that or you don't survive. Simple as. So it's the lesser of the two evils. Have your leg off or not be here anymore.
Claire now is bound to her wheelchair, which means she needs a lot of help from her family. At 21 years old, Erin now has to juggle working full-time, studying with the Open University, and helping her dad to care for her terminally ill mother. She has to help out with basic tasks like cooking, cleaning, and helping to physically manoeuvre her mum around. Erin does this, but finds it difficult to still get on with her own life.
Obviously you want to help, but I think, you're quite often busy with your own life that has to continue anyway, that you don't necessarily have the time, or you're busy doing something else. You're like, oh, do I really have to do that now?
Coming to the realisation that she is not going to be around while her family's life continues has been extremely difficult for Claire.
Now you hope that you're here long enough, but you never know. It's going to be hard. Again, as I've been in that situation, so I know I've been on the other side of it. It is going to be hard. Yeah, it's going to be hard.
After seeing just how much Erin's life has changed, it made me think about what kind of support there is available for her and others in caring situations. I came across Carers First, who are an organisation that provides thousands of unpaid carers in Medway with a support service. Carers First was recently awarded Best Charity and Not-for-Profit Campaign at the 2023 UK Digital Excellence Awards. The majority of staff who work for Carers First are actually carers themselves. Tracy Hussey is a carer support advisor who also supports her adult son.
To ensure that he's looking after himself, so I don't physically do personal care with him, but I might hint to him that he needs a shower. They're all very delicate things anyway with a mother and son relationship, but because it could trigger a behaviour in him, and to ensure that he eats well, to ensure that if he gets any letters, he doesn't just put them in a drawer and forget about them.
Experts say a lot of carers struggle to balance their caring role and work life, leaving them never able to switch off completely.
Sometimes when I'm working from home, that's another struggle because I have to say I'm on the phone or I can't speak to you now. And when people got conditions and they want to unload, it's just like carers. They want to give it to you there. They don't want to be told, come back in half an hour. So it's a juggling game every day.
Some carers know that they will always have to look after their loved ones, especially parents who care for their children. Bernadette Harrop is a personal trainer, and since she was young, she has competed in long-distance running. However, behind closed doors, she cares for her 14-year-old son Ryan, who has autism, hypermobility, dyspraxia, and global delay.
But he's quite a routine child. He likes everything done the same every day. Like if both myself or Dad are going out, he likes to know when we're going to be back. You know, what are you doing? You know, who are you with? He'll ask you. You know, but also he's a very helpful child, aren't you? He's hiding in the corner as we're talking about him, but he always wants to help you. You know, and he's very good. Like with computers, and his memory is quite good. That if we're planning to do something, or if you've lost something in the house, he'll remember where it is, or if you've got to do something, remind you, remember you've got to do this, you know.
Bernadette and her family wonder what the future will look like for Ryan, especially when he reaches adulthood.
The biggest worry is I worry when he is 18, 19, you know, what the source is going to be available for him, but also will he be accepted for who he is? Because sometimes, like even our next door neighbour to the right, they've got a son that's in his 40s now, and he was in sort of like supported area, but then some adults took advantage of him and like sort of borrowed money, didn't give it back, or get him to go to the shop to buy beers and stuff, you know. And you think that's the thing when you hear these stories, and you think, it sort of breaks your heart. You think hopefully that's not going to happen to Ryan, or I'm not going to let it happen. Well, you try not to anyway.
Not being able to get the right support for a loved one can be difficult, and more often than not, services can take a while to be accessed. This is something that Dr. Stacey Rand thinks is a key struggle for many carers.
Something that comes up so often in my work, speaking with carers, is the stress that comes from seeing the person they love not being properly supported. And although I think it's good that carers are recognised and supported in their own right, that's absolutely vital, ensuring that their loved ones have the right care and support that they need does in a way then also support carers.
Organisations like Carers First can offer these people advice and time away from their caring role. A project that is currently running from Carers First is their Care to Cook sessions. The class provides carers with the opportunity to learn simple recipes with leftover household ingredients.
Homemade tandoori chicken. We didn't marinate it for very long because we were actually at a session. And then we made homemade naan breads. We had a bit of a technical issue with the hob, so we managed to make them in the oven. And they turned out okay. They're not as puffy as they normally are. but they're edible, if that's the right word. And after making 2 trays of chicken, I think the answer is it went down very well, because I think it was nearly 2 kilos of chicken. And there's just a small crowd here today. But the whole idea is not just the cooking, it's for people to talk about how they feel today. We've got staff here that can take them off to talk privately, and really just to have a change of scenery.
Care to Cook is proving popular, and carers are able to take a well-earned break.
Very informative. Gives you some ideas what you can cook for a reasonable cost. Yeah. Something we'll try in the future.
However, not everyone is willing to reach out for these services at the early stages of their caring. It often happens when they're at crisis point and have no alternative. A key part of Carers First support is their helpline. Helpline manager Anne-Marie speaks to carers regularly and has seen many crying out for help.
It takes a lot of courage to ring as a carer to say, actually today I'm having a really bad day and I need some support. So that's why each call is individual, and we allocate the time to hear what's being said, and then from that we then work around to see what the priorities are, what's needed today, and then we look at the longer term, and then we work on another plan, support with the community teams and other organisations should it need be.
Sometimes Carers First staff need to play detective and look for signs that indicate someone might be a carer. This is particularly true for those who work in hospitals, who have to find out whether there is support available for people as they transition from hospital to home.
It's not just the signs of sort of, somebody pushing someone in a wheelchair, because that's sort of an obvious sign that they may well be caring for that person. But I think on the wards, you often, and I spend quite a bit of time on the wards, and it's about, you see the husbands and wives come in, or the sons and daughters, and it's the support that they are giving to that person. They might be assisting them with feeding, they might be accompanying them to the toilet, they might just be just generally sort of giving them that little bit of support, whether they're in their hospital bed or whether they're sitting in a chair. And I think that often gives you an indication that probably that person is going to care for the patient when they go home.
Most do not even realise that when they're at home or out helping someone else, they are indeed an unpaid carer.
Since having this conversation, you do look at it and you think, oh, maybe that is a carer's job, and maybe I am caring for her, and maybe I do class myself as a carer, because washing my mum's hair isn't something everyone does on a day-to-day basis. Taking her up to have a shower and helping her in the shower is not something every normal daughter should have to go through. And helping her get in and out of the car, or take her to appointments, or pick up endless amount of prescriptions from the chemist every day after work isn't something you see yourself doing, and it isn't something that's normal in other people's life that don't have someone like that.
Not only does Erin help to care, but she does it knowing that her mother has a terminal illness and will pass away.
The type of person I am and the type of person my dad is, we have come to the terms that my mum's going to die, and that she's not going to be here forever, and that she probably won't see my kids grow up. And she won't be at my wedding. Yeah, she won't get to see those things that every mum should get to see for their daughter. And I do think it's sunk in enough that on a day-to-day basis now I'm fine. I know that it's not going to be the same life that everyone else gets. But it's my life, and life goes on, and we don't all live forever anyway.
Many carers do struggle with their mental health. Dr. Stacey Rand has found in her research that this is common when carers are unable to do some of the tasks that they enjoy.
It can become quite consuming, and there just isn't space to look after their own needs and their own well-being. Or things like just not having time to cook a decent meal or to go to the gym or to enjoy exercising or being with other people. And we know that all of these things cumulatively can then build up and begin to impact someone's well-being and health.
Another issue for many carers is finances. Carers' allowance only consists of under £80 a week, and this is income tested. Other funds are available, but many do not receive anything.
There's not very much help at all available to unpaid carers. To get the carer's allowance, which itself is quite low, you have to be doing a lot of caring per week, and the person who you're caring for has to be themselves receiving certain disability benefits. So it's important to recognise that a lot of care is being provided unpaid, and that if there were fewer people who are willing to be unpaid carers, the cost to government would be huge.
In the past year, the cost of living crisis has seen petrol prices increase and gas and electric bills soar. Even the cost of basic food items like fruits and vegetables have quadrupled in price in some major supermarkets.
Even before the current cost of living crisis, often people with disabilities would have higher fuel bills because they might be at home all the time rather than going out. They might feel the cold, or they might need to have a reason why they have to run the washing machine more frequently than other people, for example. So those kind of increases in costs that have affected everyone, especially energy, have a really strong impact on people with disabilities and other people who live with them in their household.
Someone who is always fighting for the rights of unpaid carers is Liberal Democrat MP Wendy Chamberlain. At the moment, she is campaigning for a bill that will provide people with caring responsibilities with the right to unpaid leave from work.
They can take that in half-day chunks. They are expected to give a degree of notice to their employer, but their employer can't turn that request down. But this gives the opportunity potentially for a carer to support things such as regular doctor's appointments, therapy, or just be a bit more planful in relation to their time. And I think that's very important.
So far, the bill has passed all stages in the House of Commons and is now in its third reading in the House of Lords, but there is no guarantee it will be passed as it needs government backing. The Minister of State in the Department of Health and Social Care, Helen Whately, is charged with the organisation and funding of adult social care. This has been a difficult issue for successive governments. The population is ageing and costs are rising and will continue to do so. The government recently announced the allocation of over £2 billion into the health and social care sector. It said, this is part of the government's wider commitments to support adult social care services, backed by up to £7.5 billion over the next 2 years to help local authorities address waiting lists and workforce pressures in the sector, as announced in the autumn statement. However, the Department of Health and Social Care is facing backlash after the recent statement failed to mention a £500 million investment into health and social care workforces that had previously been promised. Instead, only £250 million is being allocated, with the remaining money not yet being assigned. The government has responded saying that this money will be put into social care, but it's still being decided where best to invest it. The president of the Association of Directors of Adult Social Services, Sarah McClinton, told the BBC that adult social care is in crisis. She said, many more people won't get the quality care and support they need, forcing more family and friends to step in where they can, more people deteriorating and being admitted to hospital, and further damage to the NHS and economy.
If I wasn't here to be able to do this for my mum, then someone would. If my mum had no family, no friends, and she can't do it herself, then someone would have to do that. And ultimately that's going to come out of the government's pocket. So all the carers in the community are saving government money and there's no recognition for it. We're working for free.
Many carers feel more can be done, as they help to save the UK economy around £193 billion a year.
Under our current policy setup and legal setup, we have the Care Act that came in 2014, and that actually positions carers as equal recipients of social care. But sadly, what we've seen in the 9 years since that came in is chronic underfunding, all kinds of issues to do with workforce availability, both in health and social care. And even though there was this aspiration, where we find ourselves is rather different.
Carers First want the government to see how they are struggling to help people in need with such little funding.
They need to put more money back into the funding for care. They took it all away from the care, and I understand the NHS need it. They've taken it from them as well. And everywhere is being cut to the bone, which will eventually just cause more and more issues within the health service, within the ongoing services. Health service have to throw them out of hospital early because they haven't got the beds, they haven't got staff. We have to then try and pick them up. We can't pick them up because we haven't got the money, we haven't got the staff. So it's just a never-ending circle.
When you are going about your everyday tasks, you may see someone who is a hidden carer and take a moment to appreciate what is going on behind closed doors.
You may have heard this phrase on an aircraft of secure your own oxygen mask before helping other people with theirs, and that I think is a good piece of advice to carers. They can only carry on caring if their own health and well-being is looked after.
There is no shame in remaining hidden, but hopefully more unpaid carers will feel that they are able to access some of the services available. Unpaid carers are often undercover, but we can now see that they are the hidden heroes of our society.